What we are seeing is a revolution against the system.
Yes, relax. We have a lot of things to take an exclusive look. Argentina president praised for calling out Davos elite abandoning freedom for socialism, drop truth bombs. That is not the only thing. Before we even go into this video, there is something.
We really do have a diverse panel here to talk about how diversity, equality, inclusion in organizations, in our thinking, can be implemented.
And coming as a white man of advanced age, from a continental European background.
Because inclusion is about see me and hear me and make space for me.
So that diversity ensures better growth, is fairer, more equitable societies, and trickles down in so many other ways in our societies.
It's very important that you have a DEI initiative.
A lot of allies across the organizations I think allyship is a big opportunity.
And I learned engaging in LGBTQ activities of colleagues who are passionate about that.
Diversity does lead to better growth, better decisions being made.
Hiring DEI teams have actually increased by 169%.
Accessibility for all, representation for all, inclusion for all.
Awareness for all kind of aspects of DEI, that we bring that to every client meeting.
I want a show of hands of what we think about setting.
And they have not realized employing people using these parameters is not working. No matter how they try to convince me, we have been seeing it, in different cases. I don't want to call names. You should know that the United Chief unleashes on the people and businesses that will not comply with the global governance. They are narrow-minded. That is according to this tweet. Let me play this video so you can see exactly what I'm talking about.
Dear friends, when global norms collapse, so does trust. And I'm personally shocked by the systematic undermining of principles and standards we used to take for granted. I'm outraged that so many countries and companies are pursuing their own narrow interests without any consideration for our shared future or our common goals. And I'm certain that unless we take action, we can expect much, much worse. So let's be clear, rebuilding trust is not a slogan or a PR campaign. It requires deep reforms to global governance to manage geopolitical tensions during a new era of multipolarity. And it is essential to building a safer, more stable and prosperous world. So dear friends, the institutions and frameworks of global governance, from the Security Council to the Bretton Woods system, were created 80 years ago. We can't build a future for our grandchildren with a system built for our grandparents. The United Nations is fully engaged this year in efforts to bring them up to date, rooted in equality and solidarity based on the UN Charter and international law. In September, we will host the Summit of the Future focused on solutions. And the summit will consider essential reforms to the global financial architecture to make it responsive to today's challenges and representative of today's world.
Yes, it is actually funny to me. Who voted these people? If you don't comply with global governance, this will happen, that will happen. It is concerning how they just want to flush everything and we should swallow. It is insane. I watched a video, even the New York Times is now making sure that Google, other social media platforms, according to this tweet, during a panel on misinformation on the media, New York Times CEO called for tech companies to do more to address low-quality content by providing better signals to distinguish between independent fact-based journalism and all other stuff. Varam from the European Commission explained how they have advertising companies on board to demonetize content by limiting advertising to sources that don't spread disinformation. That is, according to these people, when the New York Times is actually coming out to say this, I don't know if this is really right.
The platforms led to the proliferation of low-quality content. And you asked what can be done about that. Better signals, tech providing better signals to distinguish between independent, fact-based journalism and all the other stuff. Quite important, still plenty more work to do there. I think it's more than labeling. I mean, Google actually has been has made real progress on this over the years. It's how does search work? How are things indexed? We're entering a next chapter of the information ecosystem. How will quality content be pointed to? How will it be acknowledged? How will it be surfaced at great scale?
The lie is cheap and quick. That's why in the Code of Practice we have, for instance, the chapter on demonetizing. You said that disinformation makes money. We try to cut them off the money, to starve them out. That's why we have also advertising industry is on board.
The New York Times should not be saying this because I believe they are the highest spreading this kind of information. So if social medias want to do something, they should first target them first. Now going into this video, new Argentina president stunned social media users this week with his speech at the World Economic Forum annual meeting in Switzerland, where he called out Western elite for trading freedom for collectivism. I believe this is the only person that spoke out and triggered them.
That the Western world is facing a significant threat. It is in danger because those who are supposed to defend the values of the Western world are co-opted by a worldview that inevitably leads to socialism and consequently to poverty and economic deprivation. Unfortunately, in recent decades, motivated by some well-intentioned desires to help others and others by the desire to belong to a privileged caste, the main leaders of the Western world have abandoned the model of freedom for different versions of what we call collectivism. We are here to tell you that collectivist experiments are never the solution to the problems that afflict the citizens of the world, but rather they are their cause. Trust me, there is no one better than us Argentines to provide testimony on these two issues. When we embraced freedom in 1860, in 35 years we became the world's first dominant power. 35 years we became the first world power. While when we embraced collectivism, over the past 100 years, we saw how our citizens began to systematically impoverish themselves until they fell to the 140th position in the world. 40 in the world. But before we can have this discussion, it would be important for us to first look at the data that supports why free market capitalism is not only a possible system to end world poverty, but also the only morally desirable system to achieve it. If we consider the history of economic progress, we can see how from year zero until around 1800, the world's per capita GDP remained practically constant throughout the reference period. If one looks at a chart of the evolution of economic growth throughout human history, one would be seeing a chart with the shape of a hockey stick, an exponential function that remained constant for 90% of the time and exponentially shoots up from the 19th century.
Yes, when it was announced that this man is going to the World Economic Forum, I saw a lot of people were not satisfied. They were angry. Like, this man just came in. Why? Why are you going to the World Economic Forum? But just from what he did, he was appreciated on social media platforms.
We make sure that for all these vaccines, that there's enough capacity, that there's competition so the prices keep going down, and we will have new vaccines.